Alright everyone, Donald Trump just announced that he was going to pardon Susan B. Anthony. Now about 24 hours ago, he did announce that he was going to do a major pardon, and he confirmed that it wouldn't be Edward Snowden or Michael Flynn, and people ran the gamut as far as who was probably going to be on that list. Some people said Marcus Garvey. That was something that Roger Stone actually had suggested for some time and probably will still push for. Some people suggested it might be Paul Manafort, but that was a long shot because Manafort was arrested on things that had nothing to do with Trump, number one. Number two, it's a fairly significant charge. It's not like Papadopoulos getting 2 weeks in a county jail or something. What was the other? Julian Assange was on the list, but of course he hasn't technically been charged with any crime, so he hasn't been convicted of anything. He can't technically be pardoned at all. So this is actually a little bit out of the blue, but he pardoned Susan B. Anthony. Now, the specific charges stem from the 1870s. During the early wave suffragette movement, Susan B. Anthony, of course, was attempting to vote, and while female. And back then you couldn't do that. And so if you showed up and you tried to grab a ballot and you weren't male, technically speaking, you were breaking the law. Donald Trump has just issued the legendary haymaker of the election cycle because this accomplishes several things. I want to take a minute here to acknowledge that there are a lot of hot takes going on right now that are technically true from the pragmatic standpoint, but they completely overlook political reality. Politics is not about reality. It is about perception. It is strategy, as George W. would call it, strategery. It's about strategy. It's not necessarily about what's meaningful in the moment. Does this actually change anything on the ground for any American alive today? To pardon a person who died 100 years ago, charges stemming from the middle of the 1800s? No, absolutely not. Is it excellent strategic politicking? Absolutely. This is delicious, actually, to watch exactly how melt-in-the-mouth great that this is. Number one, it takes the wind out of the sails of Michelle Obama, and the timing is not coincidental. The timing is obvious. He pardoned Susan B. Anthony, the most famous suffragette of her era. This takes the wind out of the sails of Michelle Obama, who just a few hours prior was trending all across the world, based on the must-strong, empowered, woman meant sort of thing. That's number one. Number two, what was Susan B. Anthony arrested for? Can anyone guess? For illegal voting. The fact is that illegal voting now is trending, is a search term that will lead to Trump is pardoning a woman for having done so. That's been big in the news because of the mail-in ballot issue. And number three, this sort of nullifies the idea, and I know, again, perception over reality. This isn't the reality. It has nothing to do when a politician does something like this, grandstands, it doesn't necessarily speak to a larger view. It nullifies, at least in the minds of some people, that he's sexist, which is a big impediment. Trump won with white women, including white college-educated women, in 2016, but he has more trouble catering to female than male voters. Now, with Kamala Harris on the Dem ticket, a female, who would be ostensibly in charge, he has to counteract that. Technically speaking, this does a good job. Again, this has nothing to do with pragmatic politics. When somebody is pardoned, who is long dead, you can be assured that the person doing the pardoning is getting something out of it. They're essentially clearing the name of a ghost, of a goddamn fucking dusty skeleton that is utterly meaningless in the contemporary sense, but they are doing something that is technically meritocratic in nature. Technically, there's merit to this. Susan B. Anthony, in retrospect, of course, under the Constitution we operate under now, shouldn't have been brought up on charges. Well, this is just red meat to a group of voters that will actually care about that issue. Now, another hot take from some people. They're upset. They wanted it to be like Julian Assange or something. They're like, well, Trump is throwing his base under the bus. Are female voters not part of his base? He's not supposed to campaign to them? He's only supposed to campaign to men? He's supposed to be the MGTOW candidate or something like that? Hell, a large proportion of his voters were female. The fact is that while it's not meaningful, it's strategically important, number one. You gotta understand, in politics, it's not always about what is right or wrong in the clear-cut sense. You're trying to get elected. If you don't get elected, you can't do anything. If you don't get elected, you can't pass a mandate at all. If Trump is looking at a situation where Biden is, and he is, ahead, because Biden is doing the orange man bad thing alongside a bunch of billionaire corporations, alongside a bunch of rich people and a bunch of bought out shills, a bunch of globalists. Of course, Trump's going to pull out all the stops to try to stop that from happening. He wants to get reelected. The idea that he never wanted to be president was always a farce to begin with. I always chuckled when people said that, well, he didn't even mean to win. He never expected to win. He was trying to sell some books. He was trying to sell some steaks. He was trying to sell Trump wine or Trump golf course or whatever. No, that was never it. He wanted the Triple Crown, and I've been right all along. And I'm right now as well. This is, strategically speaking, a very good move. It's not a knockout punch, but it's one hell of a roundhouse. And I'm enjoying watching people sort of scramble, like watching the legacy media. Watching people on the left try to say, well, it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the fact that at the Democratic convention, Trump is getting clobbered. He's not getting clobbered. Those people are talking to a bunch of party insiders. 99% of those people are partisan Democrats who already knew who they were going to vote for years ago. Some of these people, a majority of them probably, knew who they were going to vote for before Trump was even in office. Before Biden became the nominee. They would vote for anyone with a D after their name. If Trump had decided to run as a Democrat, they'd be voting for him. So that's not meaningful. It doesn't matter. This is essentially Trump's way of bellying up to the bar and throwing out a good solid punch at the Democrats who are running on a wedge issue campaign, and part of that is gender related. And by the way, yeah, SusanBAnthony should have been pardoned years ago, and I'm sitting there wondering. She was charged in the 1870s. By the way, around the same time that the Cruikshank decision started gun control in the U.S., pioneered by Southern Democrats, by the Ku Klux Klan to keep black people, by the way, from owning firearms. Why wasn't she pardoned before? Why did no other president think to do that? They should go back through the criminal records and they should find other people with reasonably high profiles and say, why should this person have this asterisk after their name? Voting while female. Well, you know, a lot of females do that today. I find it infinitely entertaining. Oh, watching the hot takes tonight is going to be delicious to me. That's about all. Peace out.